President Trump once again calling out Governor Kemp on Twitter. The president called Kemp, quote, a fool and a clown over how the state has handled the presidential election results. He's also demanding Kemp call a special session to overturn the results and open up signature verification. Kemp has refused to call for a special session, saying it would be unconstitutional. President Trump said the Republican senators will do badly in the runoffs if a special session doesn't happen. In a second tweet, Trump claiming Democrats weakened the signature verification and other safeguards here in Georgia. Twitter added a tag, though, to that tweet saying the claim is being disputed. Georgia's Republican Secretary of State also released a statement last week saying there's no evidence of any issues with the signature matching process and that it has always been public so anyone can observe it.